Investigators are trying to understand why a heavily armed man opened fire on a young pop star just as she finished what would become her final performance.
For nearly 2 decades, America's Got Talent has been the stage where ordinary people turn their dreams into unforgettable moments. From breathtaking singers to dancers who left us speechless, the show has given the world stories of hope, courage, and raw talent. But while some of those voices still echo on replay, others have gone silent forever. Behind the golden buzzers and standing ovations, life's harsh reality stepped in when no one was watching. Some contestants who once touched millions with their gifts are no longer here to share them. Their journeys ended too soon, but their memories continued to inspire. Today, we remember 10 beloved America's Got Talent stars whose lives ended tragically, yet their legacies remain unforgettable. Number 1, Brandon Rogers, the singing doctor.
Hello. Okay, what's your name?
I'm Brandon Rogers.
Brandon Rogers wasn't just another contestant on America's Got Talent. He was something far rarer. A man whose life was already a gift to others even before he ever stepped onto that famous stage. With a warm smile, a gentle spirit, and a voice that could stop you in your tracks, Brandon carried 2 callings at once. One as a doctor and the other as a singer. Together, they painted the portrait of a man who seemed destined to heal, whether through medicine or music. His story began in Portsmouth, Virginia, where as a young boy, Brandon had an experience that would shape his life forever. When he was just 6 years old, his mother was involved in a terrible accident. Brandon remembered the fear that gripped him that day, the helplessness of watching the doctors arrive, but feeling like they weren't fully there for her. Though she survived, that moment stayed with him. He promised himself that one day he would be the kind of doctor who truly cared. True to his word, Brandon worked tirelessly through school and eventually graduated from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. He became a family doctor, respected not just for his skill, but for the compassion he showed every patient. He made time for people, listened to their fears, and comforted them in ways few ever forgot. But medicine wasn't the only gift he carried. Brandon's voice had a tenderness, a sincerity that drew people in. Even after grueling shifts at the hospital, he would sit down, turn on his camera, and sing. One of those moments changed everything. Brandon posted a video of himself performing Boys to Men's On Bended Knee.
Hey, I'm gonna swallow my pride, say I'm sorry, stop pointing fingers, the blame is on me.
The clip spread like wildfire online. Fans couldn't get enough of his heartfelt delivery, and eventually it caught the attention of the very group he admired. Boys to Men themselves shared his video. That single moment of recognition turned him into a rising star overnight. Soon after, producers from America's Got Talent reached out. It felt like fate, a chance for the world to see not just a doctor, but a man with a voice that could heal in a different way. In March 2017, Brandon stepped onto the AGT stage and sang Stevie Wonder's Ribbon in the Sky. The audience was hushed, drawn into every note. By the time he finished, the judges were on their feet. All 4 said yes. For Brandon, it was a dream unfolding before his eyes. But before the world could celebrate his rise, tragedy struck. On June 11th, 2017, just weeks before his audition was set to air on television, Brandon was killed in a car accident. He was only 29 years old. Even in death, his story didn't fade. The hospital where he trained built a special learning center in his honor, a place where future doctors could carry forward his legacy of compassion. His audition was eventually broadcast not as a goodbye, but as a reminder of who he was. A man who chose to heal, who chose to sing, and who left the world better in both ways. Brandon Rogers will forever be remembered as the singing doctor. Proof that sometimes one life can carry more light than most people ever imagine. Number 2, Nightbird, the voice of hope.
How are you? What's your name?
My name's Jane. When I sing, I go by Nightbird.
Jane Marksuwieski, known to the world as Nightbird, wasn't just a contestant on America's Got Talent. She became a symbol of courage, resilience, and hope. With her gentle smile and soft-spoken voice, she walked onto the AGT stage in 2021 during season 16. But what she carried with her was far greater than just a song. Born on December 29, 1910 in Zanesville, Ohio, Jane grew up loving music. From a young age, she discovered that songwriting gave her a way to express the thoughts and emotions she couldn't always put into words. Her songs were deeply personal, windows into her struggles and her hopes. She dreamed of sharing them with the world, of creating art that could connect to people in their darkest moments. But life tested her in ways few could endure. In 2017, Jane was diagnosed with breast cancer. She fought hard and went into remission only for the disease to return, stronger, more aggressive. By 2021, it had spread to her lungs, spine, and liver. Doctors gave her a chilling prognosis, just a 2% chance of survival. Most people would have retreated, hidden from the world, but not Jane. Instead, she chose to keep creating, to keep singing, even when her body was failing her. She once said, "You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy." That philosophy guided her every step. When she appeared on the AGT stage, frail but determined, she introduced herself as Nightbird. The name symbolized her belief that there is always a song in the night, always a reason to keep going even when the world feels dark. Then she sang her original song, "It's Okay." The performance was breathtaking. Her voice was delicate, filled with pain, yet shining with hope. Every lyric spoke of struggle, but also of survival. The crowd was silent, hanging onto every note. By the time she finished, even Simon Cowell, known for his toughness, was visibly moved. He pressed the golden buzzer, showering her in confetti, sending her straight to the live shows. In that moment, Jane wasn't just a singer, she was a beacon of hope for millions who were battling their own hardships.
Her audition went viral, racking up millions of views online. People around the world connected with her message. They didn't just hear her song, they felt her strength. Social media lit up with stories of how Nightbird inspired them to keep fighting, to keep living, no matter how impossible life seemed. But behind the scenes, Jane's health continued to decline. She later had to withdraw from the competition to focus on treatment. On February 19, 2022, the world received heartbreaking news. Jane Marcheski had passed away at the age of 31. Her death left fans devastated, but her words and music remain alive. Nightbird reminded us that happiness is not something we wait for, it's something we choose, even in the face of pain. She may have lost her battle with cancer, but her legacy of hope continues to shine like a song in the night. Number 3, Nolan Neal, Music from Pain.
Look of the song is Lost for the Last Time. It's about somebody who thinks that they don't deserve anything.
Nolan Neal's story is one of extraordinary talent, shadowed by unimaginable struggle. Born on October 6, 1980 in Nashville, Tennessee, Nolan grew up surrounded by music. Nashville was the heart of country and rock, and Nolan dreamed of making his mark in the world that had inspired him since childhood. His voice carried a rich, soulful quality, and his songwriting had the kind of raw honesty that only comes from lived experience. But behind the music, there was pain. Pain that would shape his journey and ultimately lead to a tragic end. When Nolan was young, he faced a loss that would stay with him forever. His father, who was also a musician, died by suicide. That trauma carved a deep scar in Nolan's heart, one that he often poured into his lyrics. He once admitted that much of his music came from trying to process the grief and emptiness left behind. Music became both his escape and his therapy. As he grew older, Nolan chased his dream relentlessly. He toured with a rock band, released albums, and even wrote songs for other artists. On the surface, his career looked promising, but behind the scenes, Nolan was fighting a relentless battle with addiction. Drugs and alcohol became a way to numb the pain he carried, but they also dragged him into cycles of self-destruction. Still, Nolan never gave up on music. In fact, some of his best songs came from his darkest moments. One of his most powerful works, a song called Lost, was written after he managed to get clean. It wasn't just music, it was a confession, a testimony, and a lifeline. In 2020, he brought that very song to the stage of America's Got Talent. Nolan stood before the judges in the audience, bearing his soul. He shared his struggles openly, admitting that addiction had nearly destroyed him. but that music had given him a reason to keep fighting. Then he sang Lost. Every word dripped with raw emotion. His voice trembled with pain but also carried strength, as if he was speaking directly to everyone who had ever felt broken. The performance was unforgettable. The judges were moved to tears, giving him 4 yeses. The crowd cheered not just for the beauty of his song, but for the courage it took to stand there and tell the truth. In that moment, Nolan Neal wasn't just a contestant. He was a reminder that even in brokenness, there is beauty. But life after the show wasn't easy. Despite his determination, Nolan continued to struggle privately with addiction. On July 18, 2022, the devastating news broke. Nolan had been found dead in his apartment. The cause was ruled an accidental overdose. He was just 41 years old. His passing was a crushing blow to fans and to those who had connected deeply with his story. Simon Cowell himself called the news heartbreaking. Yet Nolan's legacy remains. His songs, especially Lost, continue to reach people who feel alone in their battles. Through his music, Nolan Neal proved that pain can be turned into something powerful, something that outlives even the person who created it. Number 4. Skylar Hicks, the young songwriter.
My name is Skylar Hicks. I'm 14 years old.
At just 14 years old, Skylar Hicks walked onto the America's Got Talent stage with a guitar in hand and a story in her heart. Unlike many young performers who lean on cover songs, Skylar brought with her something raw, something deeply personal, a song she had written herself. It was born from tragedy. After losing her father, music became her way of healing, her way of speaking the emotions she couldn't put into words. When she sang for the judges, her voice was fragile yet powerful, carrying the kind of truth that only comes from real pain. The lyrics were her story, her grief, her resilience. The audience was moved. Howard Stern, Mel B, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel all recognized the authenticity in her performance. It wasn't just a song, it was her soul, laid bare for millions to see. Skylar's audition earned her a place in the hearts of viewers. People connected with her not because she was polished or perfect, but because she was real. She reminded us that even the youngest among us carry burdens, and sometimes those burdens transform into something beautiful. But behind the bright stage lights, Skylar's struggles didn't fade. As she grew older, she faced battles that many never knew about. Mental health challenges, personal hardships, and a fight to find her place in the world outside of the spotlight. The same sensitivity that gave her music so much heart also made her journey more difficult. Despite her struggles, Skylar never stopped writing, never stopped creating. She used her music as a journal, pouring out her highs and lows, her moments of hope, and her battles with despair. Her songs, often shared online, continued to inspire those who followed her story. Then, in December 2021, news broke that devastated fans everywhere. Skylar Hicks had passed away at just 23 years old. The world had lost a bright, gentle soul far too soon. The girl who once stood on stage, singing about pain and hope in equal measure, was gone.
Her passing was a sobering reminder of the hidden struggles many face, even when they appear strong on the outside. It also highlighted the importance of mental health, something that is often overlooked, especially in young people who feel the weight of their emotions so deeply. Though her time on Earth was short, Skylar's voice continues to echo. Her music, her courage, and her story still resonate with those who watched her audition, those who followed her journey, and those who understand the healing power of art in the face of loss. Skylar Hicks may no longer be with us, but the message she left behind is timeless. Even in the midst of pain, beauty can be created, and even the softest voices can leave the strongest impact. Number 5. Neil Boyd, the opera singer who stole hearts. In 2008, during Season 3 of America's Got Talent, a man from Missouri stepped onto the stage with dreams bigger than anyone could imagine. His name was Neil Boyd. He didn't look like the traditional pop star or the showbiz celebrity you might expect, but the moment he opened his mouth, the world stopped to listen. Neil was an opera singer, and his voice was nothing short of breathtaking. He performed with such power, such control, and such emotion that he brought audiences to tears. Night after night, Neil proved that talent wasn't about image. It was about heart, discipline, and the courage to share your gift. His story resonated with millions, especially because he wasn't just chasing fame. Neil was singing for his mother, who had raised him through tough times. and for all those who felt unseen. His victory in Season 3 was more than just a win. It was a statement. Neil Boyd showed America that opera, a genre often seen as distant or elite, could move everyday people. He became the man who stole hearts, not only because of his extraordinary voice, but because of his humility. He often said that music gave him purpose, and now he wanted to give that purpose back to others. After AGT, Neil's life took fascinating turns. He released an album, My American Dream, which showcased his operatic talent blended with patriotic themes. His music reflected his love for his country and his belief in unity. But Neil wasn't only interested in entertaining. He was passionate about helping people in other ways too. He even pursued a career in politics, running for office in Missouri, determined to make a difference beyond the stage. But behind his success, Neil faced health challenges. He struggled with weight and other complications that made life increasingly difficult. Yet, he never stopped smiling, never stopped showing gratitude for the platform AGT had given him. He continued performing whenever he could, touching lives with every note he sang. Then, in June 2018, tragedy struck. Neil Boyd passed away suddenly at just 42 years old from heart failure, compounded by kidney disease and liver problems. It was a heartbreaking loss for the AGT community, and for fans who still remembered the way his voice could fill a room and move hearts in an instant. Neil's story is bittersweet. He came from humble beginnings, rose to national fame, and used his platform to inspire and serve others. Even though his time was cut short, his legacy remains a reminder that America's Got Talent is not just about entertainment, but about real people with extraordinary gifts, people who remind us of the beauty of resilience and the power of following your dream. Neil Boyd may no longer be with us, but every time his voice is heard, he lives on. His gift, his humility, and his story continue to inspire long after the final curtain fell. Number 6. Michael Johns, the crossover star. Michael Johns was the kind of artist who seemed destined for greatness. Born in Australia, his voice carried the warmth of soul, the grit of rock, and the charm of classic pop all rolled into one. Many first discovered him on American Idol, where his performances and undeniable charisma made him a fan favorite. But what some may not realize is that Michael's journey also intersected with the world of America's Got Talent. He performed alongside fellow artists, supported the franchise, and became a beloved figure within the extended AGT and Idol family. Michael had a rare ability to connect with people. Whether he was covering a timeless ballad or delivering a rock anthem, he poured his heart into every word. Fans described him as genuine, approachable, and endlessly passionate about music. He wasn't just chasing fame, he truly loved sharing his gift. After American Idol, Michael carved out a career for himself as a recording artist and performer. He released original music, toured, and collaborated with other musicians. He represented the dream that reality TV competitions promised, that with talent and perseverance, artists could build lasting careers beyond the stage. For many, Michael Johns became proof that even if you didn't win the big title, you could still leave your mark. But behind the success, Michael's story took a tragic turn. In August 2014, shocking news broke. Michael Johns had died suddenly at just 35 years old. The cause was later revealed to be an enlarged heart and fatty liver disease. The announcement left fans reeling. How could someone so vibrant, so full of life and music be gone so soon? His passing struck a chord, not just with fans, but with fellow contestants, judges, and the entire Idol and AGT community. Tributes poured in, remembering Michael for his generosity, his laughter, and above all, his unforgettable voice. Artists who had shared the stage with him spoke about his kindness, his humility, and the way he made everyone feel valued. Though his career was cut short, Michael's impact lingers. His performances are still replayed online, where fans continue to write messages of love and remembrance. For many, listening to him sing feels like reconnecting with an old friend, someone who reminded them of the magic music can bring. Michael Johns may not have lived to see the full extent of his potential, but he left behind something far more enduring, a legacy of authenticity. He proved that music isn't just about reaching the top, it's about touching lives along the way. And that is exactly what he did. Today, when fans remember Michael Johns, They don't just remember a contestant from a show. They remember a voice that could fill a room, a smile that lit up a stage, and a soul that even in its brief time here left an everlasting echo. Number 7. Emily Gold. A young life, a lasting echo. Emily Gold was 17, a varsity dance captain, a cheerleader, a friend, a spirited leader among her Los Osos high school teammates. In the heat of summer 2024, Emily and her school's dance team lit up the stage of America's Got Talent. They didn't just dance, they gave everything, every breath, every move, every beat. Their performance in the auditions won admiration, and in the quarterfinals, they delivered once more. Judges, including Simon Cowell, gave them a standing ovation. Emily, with her warmth, her energy, and her joy, stood at the heart of that team. The kind of person who lifted others up, who smiled even when the stakes were high. But in the weeks that followed, after the cheering died down and the lights dimmed, something unseen lingered. Emily was balancing high school, dance practice, cheer, performances, corrections up until moments before going on stage. She carried not just choreography, but expectation, responsibility, hope. Then came the darkest moment no one could have predicted. On the night of September 13th, 2024, Emily Gold died by suicide. She was found in the lanes of a freeway in Rancho Cucamonga, California. She had just a few weeks earlier inspired millions with her performance, a teenager whose light seemed so bright. But some battles are internal, silent, wounds unseen. In the aftermath, her community, her school, her team, all grieved. Heartbroken parents shared a tribute. We lost our beautiful Emily. Our hearts have a hole the size of the universe. Her brother Alex wrote of always looking for her in the sky. Students, teachers, and teammates spoke of her kindness, leadership, laughter, and how she made others feel seen. The Los Osos dance team remembered her as strength, commitment, kindness, compassion, and the most human heart. Emily's death sparked conversations, difficult ones, about the pressures young people face, about mental health, about how even those who seem to have it all together can struggle in silence. Her school district offered grief counseling. The community rallied. Her life, though brief, forced us all to ask, how do we see those who are hurting? How do we listen when someone says, "I'm fine," but looks anything but? We remember Emily not just for her dance moves or her standing ovation, but for being a girl who cared fiercely about her art, her teammates, and the people around her. For being someone who dared to step into the spotlight, and in doing so, gave others permission to dare too.
Zuri Craig, a voice that bridged generations.
Hi guys, what are your names and where are you from?
My name is Zuri and I'm from Atlanta too.
When Zuri Craig stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage in 2015 as half of the Craig Lewis Band, the audience didn't just hear music, they felt it. From the very first note, Zuri's warm, soulful tenor and his partner Jeffrey Lewis's rich harmonies transported listeners back to the golden days of rhythm and blues. Their audition, a stirring rendition of James Brown's "This Is a Man's World," earned a standing ovation and unanimous yes votes from the judges. For many viewers, it felt like witnessing a revival of classic soul wrapped in a fresh, modern package. Zuri's path to that stage was anything but overnight success. Born and raised in Washington, D.C., he grew up surrounded by gospel music. Sundays meant church choirs that lifted the roof, and young Zuri soaked up every note. He studied the greats, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, Sam Cooke, and dreamed of sharing that timeless sound with the world. Before AGT, he gained recognition on YouTube for his crystal-clear covers and even caught the attention of Tyler Perry, appearing in several of Perry's stage plays and musicals. Those early experiences honed his craft and deepened his storytelling, but AGT was the moment when millions finally saw the talent he carried. Throughout Season 10, the Craig Lewis Band dazzled week after week. From soulful ballads to high-energy numbers, Zuri's voice never wavered. He and Jeffrey made it all the way to the finals, finishing among the top acts of the season. Even without the winning title, their performances opened doors to tours, recording opportunities, and collaborations that kept Zuri's calendar full long after the television lights dimmed. But beyond the spotlight, friends remember a man defined by kindness and humility. Zuri mentored young singers, lent his voice to community events, and never forgot the church roots that first nurtured him. He often spoke about music as a way to heal and unite, believing a well-sung lyric could bridge divides that words alone could not. That's why the news of his passing in October 2022 felt like a sudden silence across the music world. At just 44 years old, Zuri's death was confirmed by his family in a heartfelt statement, though they did not immediately share the cause. Fans flooded social media with tributes, replaying his AGT performances and remembering how his voice had once filled living rooms with joy. Jeffrey Lewis wrote movingly about losing not only a musical partner, but a brother in spirit. His story reminds us that the greatest performers don't just entertain, they connect, leaving echoes that outlast any single performance. Though the stage lights have dimmed, the sound of Zuri Craig's voice still lingers, a smooth, timeless reminder that true soul never dies. Number 10. Christina Grimmie. From AGT auditions to viral fame.
What's your name?
My name is Christina Grimmie.
Christina Grimmie.
Before Christina Grimmie became a household name on The Voice, her story intersected with America's Got Talent. As a teenager with a dream, Christina auditioned for AGT in her early years, hoping that the stage could be her big break. While she didn't advance far in the competition, that moment didn't stop her. In fact, it pushed her to find her own way. She turned to YouTube, armed with just a webcam, a piano, and an unforgettable voice. Christina began uploading covers of popular songs, and almost overnight, the internet took notice. Her renditions of hits by Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato, and other pop icons drew millions of views. She wasn't just another cover artist. Her performances carried raw emotion, effortless control, and a spark that made her stand out from the rest. Fans felt they weren't just listening to a singer, they were connecting with someone who poured her heart into every lyric.
By the time she stepped onto the Voice stage in 2014, Christina already had a massive online following. When she belted out Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball during her blind audition, all 4 judges turned their chairs. She chose Adam Levine as her coach, and from that moment, her career seemed destined for greatness. She soared through the competition, eventually placing 3rd, but winning the hearts of millions. Christina's talent was undeniable, but what made her truly special was her humility. She treated her fans like family, often spending hours after shows to meet them, sign autographs, and take pictures. Her kindness was as much a part of her identity as her music. She dreamed not only of stardom, but of using her voice to inspire others, especially young people chasing their own dreams. But tragedy struck in the most shocking way imaginable. On June 10, 2016, after performing at a concert in Orlando, Florida, Christina stayed behind to meet fans, as she always did. As she welcomed people with open arms, a man approached and opened fire. Christina was shot multiple times.
Investigators are trying to understand why a heavily armed man opened fire on a young pop star just as she finished what would become her final performance.
Her brother heroically tackled the gunman, but it was too late. At just 22 years old, Christina Grimmie's life was cut short in a moment of senseless violence. The news sent shockwaves around the world. Fans, fellow musicians, and even strangers were devastated. Christina wasn't just a rising star, she was a symbol of what it meant to dream fearlessly and live generously. Her death raised awareness about the safety of performers, but more importantly, it highlighted how one young woman's light could touch so many lives in such a short time. Christina Grimmie's legacy lives on through her music, her family's foundation, and the millions of people who still play her songs on repeat. From AGT auditions to viral YouTube fame and her unforgettable run on The Voice, Christina showed us that no matter how short a life may be, its impact can echo forever. As we've journeyed through these stories, one thing becomes clear. America's Got Talent has always been more than just a television show. It's a stage where ordinary people, teachers, dancers, doctors, dreamers, step into the light and reveal extraordinary gifts. Some performed for only a few minutes, yet those moments left imprints that still echo years later. Brandon Rogers showed us that a person could be both healer and artist, using his voice to comfort in more ways than one. Nightbird reminded us that hope can shine even in life's darkest valleys. Nolan Neal sang his pain into power, letting his honesty heal others. Skylar Hicks, still a child when she first appeared, poured her heart into songs for her father. Neil Boyd's operatic voice filled entire arenas, and Michael Johns carried his music across shows, still touching fans long after his last performance. When we look back, it's not just about the notes they sang or the steps they danced, it's about the emotion they stirred in millions of hearts. They taught us that talent is a gift, but it's the humanity behind that talent that leaves the deepest mark. They remind us that every standing ovation, every golden buzzer, every cheer from the crowd carries weight, because we never truly know how long a star will shine before it fades. Though these beloved contestants are no longer with us, their voices continue to live on, in recordings, in memories, in the lives they touched both on and off the stage. Their legacies are not defined by tragedy, but by the beauty they brought into the world. And now, we turn to you. Which of these stories touched you the most? Was it the singing doctor who gave his life to healing, or the young dancer whose spirit lives on in every step her teammates take? Share your thoughts in the comments below.